What I think is so powerful about what you've done away from the track as well, which feeds so amazingly into this, is how open you've actually been about periods and how it relates to sports performance. And I think that's such an incredible thing to do, because I always remember when Heather Watson was at Wimbledon and she mentioned that it affected her performance, and there was all these debates about it all of a sudden, like, should you say this? Is it allowed? Should you be able to say this? How can you say that this is affecting your performance? And it's like, oh my God, like, listen to the person who's actually speaking here. And it must have been so empowering for you to be open and honest about that in particular.
Yeah, and I think there's something I definitely am going to and will continue to speak up against and do work with and for, because it is essential. Like, if you round the back, when you speak to girls, if they have if you've got this amazing athlete that's amazingly consistent and they just have one wild day, I mean, obviously it could be loads of things, but then you chat to them and some people go, yeah, my period just did a number on me. And it's really frustrating, because obviously everything's relative for different women. You don't know how it's going to affect me. It could affect somebody else differently or whatever, but also it can really put a sledgehammer through your body if you catch it on the wrong day, and it is entirely does affect your performance. And it's so fundamental. You can even get injured. Loads of people I know, they've been, well, including myself, you are far more likely to get injured when you're on your period than not, just because of all the body changes. And it's incredibly frustrating, and 52% of the population goes through it. So why is it a taboo? We really should be talking about it, and quite rightly there should be more sports research into it, because if you're claimed to be an equal sport, or you're a doctor or a physio that works with women and men, you should understand something that fundamentally affects and detracts their performance. Because I definitely know that if men went through something that changed the makeup of major tendons more floppy, changed the way that your back was, made you lose sleep, vomit, sometimes people be in so much pain, we would absolutely have a billion and one strategies around it, especially when it 1000%, because it would be seen as very much normal, which periods are anyway, and it would be seen as something that you very much have to manage and mitigate to perform well. But in sports, it's still one of those hush things at the higher levels. Most people in their teams, including mine, they're great. You talk about it very openly, and everybody, we will manage and have strategies, so it does work. But I still think we should open up the conversation, because again, even when it comes to young girls and when people start their period, loads of people who aren't in elite sport, some people think they just don't exercise in their period because they're just no, there's so little information around it, particularly when it comes to sports and exercise. I think that is, sorry, now you caught me on a soapbox, but yeah, I think it's a really, really important topic to talk about. But yeah,
I think the fact that it's not almost seen as acceptable in society to talk about periods, and also particularly in reference to sport, just shows how much further we still need to come in terms of gender parity in sport, right?
So far. Yeah, we've got a long way to go. It's certainly better. It's far better than it was. There's been loads and loads of improvements, but we are not there yet.
When you think back to that girl who was trackside at 2012, and then you're now sitting here as a world champion athlete, that is just incredible. What I find so fascinating about athletes is their mindset and how they get themselves into that championship mindset, because it must come with so much pressure and so many hurdles to literally overcome as well. What have been some sort of turning points for you in getting a positive mindset?
Firstly, I love pressure. I think I get asked about pressure so often. I think lots of people come at it from the perspective of oh, that's terrible. But I'm no, I really don't mind, because I feel as a sprinter in particular, you have to be really good under pressure. You have to, every element of what we do is pressurized, whether that's executing in 10 seconds what you need to do, or it's running less than a few meters away from your competition and not making a mistake. It's being able to execute when there's this whole stadium is so silent and there's a pin drop. So I think what we do is very much surviving and thriving under pressure, and you have to kind of love it. And I do kind of love that feeling, and the butterfly feeling that you get when you're a bit nervous. I love it. So for me, I'm always kind of that bit. I don't mind too much. That bit, I think it's a fun part, and maybe I'm a bit strange, but it's a fun part of what I do. But in terms of hurdles with the mindsets, I think for me, it's been being successful when all of the odds are stacked against you, or just certain things say you're going to lose today, or this shouldn't go well, and then it has. Because in my nature, I'm a very organized person. Like, I'm one of those people that will turn over every stone to make sure that I'm successful and I'm good. Like I'm a list person, very organized, tick off every box, blah, blah, blah. And when you're younger, you can get to the point where it's like, if I don't have everything ticked, I can't do this or I can't do that, which I think is really limiting. But sometimes I've got into races. So for example, there was a year when I broke my foot in like February, and then we had a world championships in like the July, and it should have been like a year, 2 years recovery. And loads of people said there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to run this year. But I was like, no, I want to at least try. So I tried, I rehabbed. It was very difficult, but we made it. We went to the World Championships, and I actually performed the best that I ever performed. Performed better than I did in the Rio Olympics, which I was entirely frustrated about. But anyway, I managed to come fourth, and then we came away with a world silver. So I think after that, and kind of being successful in situations when on paper you probably shouldn't have, or it would have made sense for it to not go well, it's made me turn around and just go, you know what, it doesn't matter what anybody says, it doesn't matter what the odds might say, it doesn't matter what logic might say. Sometimes you just need to believe in yourself and go for it, because you can really just write your own story and you'll be fine. And coming from somebody who was very much a by the book person, being able to transition into a mentality of just genuinely believing and just going for it, I think is very powerful, because I still do everything I'm meant to do. But I also know that if not every box is ticked, you're still going to be okay, because you're really good and you're great. It's going to be fine. And I think having that self-confidence and self-assuredness, it is really, it's essential. And I'm really grateful that I was, in a weird way, went through that stuff to be able to come out much stronger mentally.
And I think what's so interesting about that is that I think for athletes, the idea of success and failure is so finite, because it's like you either get that gold medal, you get that world championship title, or you don't. There's no in between. Like you can place maybe fifth, but that's not what you're there for, and that's not what you're training yourself for.
Exactly.
So it must be so hard to be constantly living on this tightrope between success and failure. And I guess, does that bring a lot of challenges to your own mental health as well?
Personally, for me, I think success is always relative. Like, I think I'm very grateful for my coach as well. He's always been very careful to make sure my expectations are realistic. So like, if I was like half a second behind the fastest person in the world going into the race, and don't get me wrong, something happens, you can always win, you never know what's going to happen. But like, if somebody's half a second faster than me, which is like, I don't know, 20 meters ahead of me or 10 meters ahead of me in a race, he's not going to tell me like, go on, like you're going to win by 15 meters. He's like, today I want you to do this. He won't tell me I can't win, but he's also not going to lie to me. And then that's when I feel like, when people sometimes have unrealistic expectations, I think that's when your mental health can suffer, because suddenly you'll be telling yourself you should always have confidence in yourself, but sometimes you do need to be realistic and be grateful for where you are and gradually work your way up, because that in the long run is far better for your self-esteem. Because if you keep telling yourself, I'm going to break Usain Bolt's world record when you are 5 seconds off it, you're going to get upset every time you don't break Usain Bolt's world record, and then your mental health will suffer, when really you might be doing really well for where you are, and gradually focus on working your way up, which as a byproduct of being in a better mental place, ironically, you'll end up running faster in the long run. So I've just been very fortunate to have somebody who's always been realistic and told me to kind of focus on my own goals, focus on my own path, don't be too comparative, and honestly just be in the best mental space possible in that moment when you stand on the line. Because if you're happy and you believe in yourself and you're mentally strong, you can go and achieve things that are beyond what you even believe for yourself. But you have to get to that place, and by getting to get to that place, I find that you have to be rational and take things step by step. That's me anyway. That's the person I am.
I love that. What do you do behind the scenes to look after that mental state?
Well, I've got a psychologist. I literally just came off my psychologist call at like 10:12, and now I'm on with you at 10:15. So I've got a psychologist, which helps a lot. And also I just try and remember, I think for me it's gratitude. And all, as we talked earlier about 2012, and also I'm just very grateful for what I've achieved already. I make sure things are manageable. I look to make small incremental improvements. I don't think about the bigger picture too much, because sometimes that can freak you out. And I just take it step by step and try and just have fun along the way, because everybody is different. But I know that I'm fairly motivated. I really don't drop in motivation like ever, which is really awkward when people say, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, oh, I'm just one of those people that always wants to be the best. I'm really sorry, like I don't know what to say, I can't relate. But I feel really awkward. People are like, surely you must wake up and not want to get it. I'm like, no, I wake up and I just don't think about it. I just go and do what I have to do. Sorry. But I am fairly self-motivated, and for me it's just making sure that you're having fun and enjoying it. And you've got, when you turn up to a race, you're seeing your friends that you haven't seen, and you're celebrating. If you don't have a good day, having a laugh, moving on. Tokyo was not great for all of us. Not all of us, but a lot of us. Not oops, but like, COVID. Loads of us were injured. Loads of us were hurt. Some of my friends privately had the Rona and then had to, didn't compete, but missed loads of training, was negative, and then, like, things just don't always go according to plan. And it's just being grateful the fact that I get to do what I love every day and trying really hard, and that's it really. I think I'm definitely a sunny side of life person, I think.
Babe, same. I just sometimes think that, like, it's the best option. Like, just choose that sunny side of life, walk towards that sunny horizon. It must be so amazing working with a sports psychologist, because it must teach you so many transferable lessons as well. What's a very tangible lesson you've learned from working with them?
So much. Oh my gosh, so much. Even sports psychologists, but also in sports. I always say young women and young men should get into sports, mainly because it teaches you so much about life. Like, one of the mottos, this isn't from the sports psych, but I guess I picked it up. This is one of the things that we say in track all the time, which is control the controllables, which is mainly like, if it's a windy day, or it's flooded with rain, or the track is not a very good track, or something, you can't stress about it. Why? Because I can't control the rain, I can't control the wind, I'm not God. Just run, deal with what you got, and move on.